Hello, podcast listeners, and welcome to the Core Health Collective show. My name is Ben Bowen, and on this podcast, we will be exploring what it means to be an entrepreneur in the health and wellness industry. We will explore the many opportunities and challenges we go through to improve the human condition with the products and services we sell. Welcome back to the show, everybody. I've got a really cool young entrepreneur on the show today who's making huge waves in the food industry for all the right reasons, I suppose, but I'm really excited to get into the conversation. So first off, obviously, I want to welcome Julia, who is here from Nude Food. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And just for all the viewers or listeners, right before we started recording, we realized that my head packaging today is similar to your packaging. I've got a hat that says no bull and your packaging says no BS.
Yes, true story.
Yeah, so we are both on message today. So again, thanks for joining us. I'm as our audience knows, I love biohacking. One of the things I focus a lot of my time on is what goes into our bodies. Like, it's my number one. Good health, good feeling, stress reduction, skin, hair, everything that people complain about. Antidote, which is what you put in your body is what you will get. So that's like a personal mission for me. So I'm really happy that I'm talking with an entrepreneur that's made a business out of it. So why don't you give us a little bit of background on your story and how you got to today?
Sure. Yeah. So a little bit about me. So I used to be, and sorry, by the way, if there's background noise, I am in a live factory where we're making our products. So, but yeah, so a little bit about my story. So I used to be a ballet dancer. It feels like in another lifetime. And I was super interested in learning about how to optimize not only performance, but so obviously everyone knows that you kind of have to watch how you look in ballet. Obviously, that's not always positive, but that's what drove me ultimately to really understand nutrition. Anatomy is what we study too in ballet as well, to understand, if you injure something, what is it? How can you get better? And of course, quick recovery time, which we're seeing now in a lot of major sports, whether it be football or basketball or any of those sports, people are really, really being in tune with what you said in the intro about how what we put into our body really affects not only our recovery time, our overall performance, our mental health, everything. So that really was something that, again, maybe from a negative in regards to being body conscious in ballet, that really drove me to study nutrition. I was really into culinary arts, and kind of, as they say, the rest is history. So the more that I learned, the more that I really started to get interested in plant-based foods, in superfoods, and trying to understand how to reduce inflammation. I was really into raw foods and just kind of using myself as a guinea pig, so they say. So that's kind of what happened. I sadly had an injury that was career ending, and I was getting old anyway for ballet. Moved back home and started the business. So yeah.
Okay, so I'm curious, when you were still doing ballet and you were experimenting with these foods, what are some of the things that you decided to do? Like, what were some of the foods you decided to eat, and like, why did you choose them, and what did you get out of them?
Okay. So that was a long time ago now. Like, I'm going to date myself. It was probably like 15 years ago now. So I don't remember all the specifics, but what I do know is, I started looking at juicing, and I was doing a lot of raw recipes, and I have a sweet tooth. So what I really loved about raw food, what kind of drew me to it, is it seemed like it was almost like sorcery, in the sense that you could still have your cake and eat it too, so to speak, where you were still getting tons of multivitamin or the micronutrients and vitamins. You were still getting all sorts of good fats, protein, and fiber, but without the huge sugar, spikes and crashes that you would typically see with refined sugar and all these refined inflammatory oils and all that other stuff that we typically consume in like Twinkie-esque type of food. So what I loved was that you were still able to feel nourished. The biggest thing that I can definitely speak to feeling is, and I'm sure a lot of people in your audience may remember, if they don't eat this way anymore. But, if you went to a restaurant and you would, fill up on like, let's say a carb heavy, like pasta type of meal, which is delicious, of course. But you'd feel heavy and you'd feel sick and not so great after that meal. You'd want to fall asleep because it's just so much extra energy expended in your body trying to work through that food. So one of the biggest things that I noticed was when I switched to plant-based and when I was eating more, raw foods, and it wasn't 100%, but when I was eating raw food, you just felt so light and so nourished. And like, you didn't have that weight after a meal. You felt like you could get up and run a marathon after a meal, and you just felt like energized, like the way you should probably after you eat a meal. So that was a big thing that I really noticed, was just how you felt, the connection to yourself, being more in tune with your body, and also, as cliche as it sounds, feeling more in tune and connected to other beings and to the environment as well. I know that sounds super hippie, but yeah, just like being more in tune with everything.
No, I totally get that. I've eliminated many things from my diet and for a long time now, and I've gotten all the benefits that you were just talking about, for sure. So okay, so now you've had a life experience where you became aware that what you put in your body actually matters. You tried it, it worked. You had that career-ending injury. Sorry to hear that.
I was never going to be a ballet dancer anyway. That was like top tier, so it's okay.
Well, you were in some ways. And then you moved back to Canada. So where did the business come? So I can kind of see like the beginning stages, but how did you become aware of a business opportunity, and what was the journey? I think many of our listeners for sure have these moments of like, oh, okay, I've had experiences. Is there a business there, and what's that gap in the middle? So maybe you could walk us through like that gap between like having a real business with orders and just your personal experience.
Yeah, how you go from 0 to 1, for sure. So obviously there was a little bit of time. So when I came back, and I was still youngish, but I felt I had been left behind. At that point, I had major FOMO because I chose to pursue a dance career in the United States, where everyone else I knew went on to go to university. And even though I had been accepted into every university I applied, I still had to turn them down and really take a huge risk. So I will say I was already setting myself up to deviate from the norm and deviate from the normal trajectory of what adults or young adults do when you graduate and go right to school. So I had already, so to speak, missed out on that life stage, and that cohort was already ahead of me. So that kind of, for better or worse, kept me out of the, trajectory of what the norm was, because I was like, well, I've already missed it. So, if I go back to school now, which I could have, and I mean, it sounds stupid now. If you're like 21, you're still so young. But if I go back now, I won't know anybody, right? I'll be the oldest one in the class. I don't want to do that, right? So I, went to work, and I was still dancing and still like recovering back. Was like, is there still a run, left in me if I were to move back to, New York or California? Like, is there something I could still do if I were to recover? And yeah, ultimately that didn't work out. But again, in the interim, I was just trying to soul search and figure out what I was doing. So I inevitably enrolled to become a nutritionist. And then partway through, I was also doing market research in regards to what was currently available on store shelves. And I found that there wasn't as much innovation in Canada as there was in the United States in regards to kind of really encapsulating these types of trends and having the availability to these types of convenient products. And also, while I was in nutrition school and seeing clients, a lot of these things that I saw was a barrier in regards to not only accessibility, but time and also knowledge. So there was a little bit of like, oh, I don't know how to eat better. Or if it was made for me, I would eat better. Or there was just like this barrier. So I was like, okay, so how can I come out with something that's really convenient and still going to be, at the pinnacle of nutrition in regards to what a packaged product can meet? Otherwise, I'm not putting my name on it. There's no point. So I started with some recipes that I liked. I wanted it to be able to be accessible to someone even with diabetes, someone who had nut allergies, someone who was celiac, like basically everyone. So it was inclusive, and started making it in my parents' basement. We looked at how we could separate a space, have it be inspected and, by the municipality, so that everything was, by the book, check. Started thinking of a name, made like a little shitty logo, and like all of the things that exist nowadays in Canva and all these things that can do logo generators, like they weren't there. So, we just kind of did some really like cheap looking stuff, threw it in a bag and just kind of started researching, like, how do I get it in a bag? How do I, you look at competitors and things that are currently on the shelf. And you just kind of learn, like, you look at pricing, you don't know business models, you don't know gross margin, like, you don't know all that stuff. You don't know what you don't know. You just kind of, pick something on shelf and kind of mimic it and figure it out as you go. So that's kind of what I did. We came up with the price, packaged some stuff, threw it in a bag, and I just pounded the pavement. I went to a bunch of grocery stores that I personally shopped at that were more in the natural, independent type of space, and just said, hey, like, this is what I'm offering. It's something unique that you don't have. It hits every, trend and all that we're seeing. And would you be open to purchasing it? And that was pretty much it. They took a chance. We got on shelf. I got, I think, 40 accounts within the Toronto area within like a couple months. And then I was just like making it out of my basement, and it just kind of grew organically. No pun intended, grew organically from there. And then we were able to move into our own facility. I was able to hire staff. Like, it was a very slow slog, and I knew nothing. Like, I did not have a background in corporate affairs. I had no background in CPG. I had no background in finance. Like, I just kind of did it and figured it out and willed my way into the industry. And yeah, that was pretty much it. So hopefully that's like enough detail to kind of get the context of like how I started. But if there's anything in particular you want me to like break down or focus more on, happy to do that.
Yeah, no, that was an amazing breakdown. And yeah, you didn't even skip any of the little nuances. And I was thinking back to the beginning of my career. I'm like, oh, I felt like that. I wore all those hats. Like, yeah, it's such an amazing story. Congratulations for, breaking through and doing all of that work. Cause, most, as we know, I don't know what the statistics are, but they're dire. I do know that, that most people don't get through all of those stages and get to where you're at today. So congratulations. It's amazing. I do have a few little questions around your journey, but I think our listeners really want to know about the product. So tell us about the product, and then I'm going to circle back.
I'm like the worst salesperson ever. I don't do shameless plugs, but I probably should. But yeah, so our products are still, even it's been 10 years, or even 10 years later, sad to say, extremely unique in regards to the commitment to purity and real food. So, and I'm not saying that because it's just my company. Like, even as a consumer or a nutritionist, it's very sad to see as more money is poured into the CPG space, and particularly natural foods, we're seeing an extension or the continuation of kind of these Franken foods that are more novel, instead of actually getting back to basics and just being really good, real food. And so that I'm seeing kind of a departure from that, which is very sad. So anyway, just means we're needed still, which is good. So getting back to your question, what are the products? So we have 4 product lines. Everything is organic, raw, vegan, nut-free, sugar-free, paleo, gluten-free, and then we have keto options too. So we hit every single growing trend. And I've always maintained trends come and go, but real food will never go out of fashion. And although it seems to have not come into fashion, so I'm a little bit out of place there. But anyway, so we have one product line, which is our banana crisp, which is kind of like a dried superfood smoothie. We have a second line, which is our sweet potato crackers, and sweet potato is the first ingredient. And they're just, again, as they sound, a cracker based on sweet potatoes. We have a third line, which is our keto flax crackers. They just happen to be low carb, but we're definitely not a low carb company inherently. And then the fourth one that we have is our more permissible indulgence, which is a chocolate covered banana line with no sugar, no lecithins, no dairy, and no shellacs to make it shiny. So we're the only company, at least as far as I know, in the world using just 2 ingredients for a confection. Yeah, so that's us in a quick nutshell.
Isn't it amazing how well thought out you have to be so simplistic with your ingredient list?
Yes, it's tough. Like, otherwise more people would do it. And I remember talking to an ex-president of a huge CPG company years ago. I won't say what. And I went in there so angry as like this young millennial, like wanting to change the world. And I was like, you're the devil, you're the evil one. Like, I didn't say that, but that's what I had in my head. And I remember asking him, like, how did the industry get this way? Like, just, I want to know, like, how did food become so shit, right? Like, because I was like, I don't think you or the people you work with at the corporate level are inherently evil, right? So like, how did it get there? And he's like, well, it's because of the capital markets, right? Like they kept being pushed to produce. And again, maybe this isn't super eye-opening for everyone or earth-shattering, but of course, like that's part of the game, right? They kept being pushed to reduce prices quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter to reduce prices. And ultimately over decades, it erodes quality. And that's where we are. Food is so cheap and so shit. So it's very sad that we've kind of gotten there. And the big guys don't know how to kind of reinvigorate their supply chain to make something so pure. Like it just deviates so much from what they've been used to doing. It's just not inherent in them to do what these little guys are doing, like us.
And is it fair to say a lot of these companies, and I'm not picking on them at all because it's not just the companies, it's the consumers are equally responsible.
100%. Yes, yeah. 100%.
So
they make what consumers want, unfortunately. Yeah. They work together.
Yeah. And the bridge is the marketing.
Yes.
Right. So they use products that are profitable or ingredients that are profitable.
Yeah.
And they use marketing to make us feel like it's also good.
Yeah, 100%. So what I will say is, yeah, it's the consumer. Like it is ultimately up to us to vote with our dollar and educate ourselves. I know it's not easy. And especially when there's such a flux of information and contrasting information or conflicting information coming at us in regards to nutrition. But that's where I just step back and say, if you remove all of this, what makes sense, right? Like you don't have to go after trends or, $100 per gram guru inspired superfood. Like, although that's cool if that's what you do. But the biggest thing is just eat real food. Just eat real food, right? And if somebody's marketing to you something else, then they have an ulterior motive or another agenda that they can profit off of, right? So it just doesn't make sense to me. Like a lot of these things where it's like, you just need to step back and be like, does this make sense? And if you read the ingredients, because the other thing that really grinds my gears is we're not really taught nutrition in school, right? Like we leave school and there's no kind of foundation for understanding about how to navigate through life in many things, don't get me wrong, but nutrition as well, which is so paramount, especially in a country where we have social medicine. And that was always one thing that I thought we should have an investment in order to educate people so that they won't have to use the system as heavily, especially as we have an aging population, right? Like there's an opportunity there and that's just something that's not there. So anyway, again, I know I could rant for hours. I'll try and get off my soapbox, but it's just keep it simple, eat real food, read the ingredients, and don't base all of your eating decisions on nutrition facts because they're more often than not completely wrong. And what you should be looking at is a qualitative approach instead of quantitative. So more so ingredients, quality of ingredients, not the quantitative, the numbers and nutrition facts, and just keep it simple.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's okay that you're on your soapbox. I do these interviews with entrepreneurs in the health and wellness field. Most of them live on the soapbox, which is why they're in the industry.
Right.
Yeah. So you just stay up there. It's fine.
Stay crazy. Yeah.
So tell us, where's the business today?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're still small. I mean, relatively in the industry, there's so much room to grow. And again, we're doing something novel. Like we make our product. A lot of people don't. And a lot of consumers are always shocked when they hear that. They are like, oh, I love this brand. Like, yeah, they don't make it, which is fine. Like you can totally outsource to someone. But when you're doing something that is not outsourceable because it's so novel, there's extra barriers for sure and an extra learning curve and a lot more cash to go into capital expenditures in regards to our facility and our overhead and, our staff and our factory. So we're still super, super small because we don't invest a ton of money in marketing and sales. All of our money goes into the quality of our product and our ingredients. And so we're still like sub a million. We're tiny. But hoping to grow, hoping to break through. I was probably 10 years too early, to be honest. And, inflation and recession aside, I think people, especially after the Black Swan event that was COVID, I think a lot of people are more in tune or open to learning about how to look after themselves because we've now learned that the medical system can't really manage to look after ourselves in an event like that, or you just need to take your health into your own hands to be proactive to try to avoid getting insanely sick from something that some people did and some people didn't. That's what I would say about that.
Yeah, no, we definitely align on the proactive care that, healthcare should start at home. no question, the decisions that we make. So, and it's tough. Like it's really, it is really hard. Like there's a reason why the majority of the population is eating things that they shouldn't, myself included. Like, yeah, I've done a lot better, but there's still a butter tart in my future. So it's tough. And I'm not sure exactly why it's tough. We can blame it on the companies, the marketing, our own weaknesses, how busy we are, because it's really multifactorial, which is why it's so hard to reverse. But it's really great to see companies like yours and talking to entrepreneurs like you that, are on this mission to re-educate and re-energize every individual around their health. I think it's really awesome what you're doing. So what do you see, get out your crystal ball. Where's the future of, you could touch on food if you want, but I definitely want to hear, like, what's the future of like your category of food, if you can look to the future?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if I had a crystal ball, that would be really helpful. I mean, especially for investing in stocks and stuff, or real estate. But yeah, so I think for my category, I mean, no one knows. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's up to marketing, consumers, and the available products and the retailer willingness to carry certain products and have faith in those relationships to obviously create, profit for the shelves that they sit on. But I would say, like, so it's still possible to wield and have it be, bent to a particular future if we're all working in tandem, like retail, consumer, and manufacturers. So what I would say is I'm hopeful that every category in the grocery store will start to, bend more towards health food. Is that what I'm seeing right now, today? No. I mean, obviously we're seeing people be squeezed, their wallets be squeezed, and there's certain realities to that, right? So I think we also can't ignore and just sit on our soapbox. And we know Canadians are hurting, North Americans are hurting, people in every economy around the world are hurting. So we know that. And unfortunately, a lot of the first things to go are fresh fruits and vegetables. The things that we probably shouldn't do, given that our health, if we don't have our health and we have our wealth, we have nothing left, right? So at the end of the day, like, the reality is that North Americans, we used to spend a disproportionate amount on food. Food has become insanely cheap for various political reasons and other things that have been done over the last many decades. But now we spend under 10% of our overall income on food, which is insanely low. So when there's something you're looking to cut on, like, I wouldn't cut back on food. I would cut back on everything but food, because again, if you're not nourishing yourself, what else do you have? But sadly, that is not what we're seeing. So I don't see the category, at least for the short term, doing insanely well with organic, premium, whole foods. But I still am optimistic and hope in the long term that this is just a blip, and ultimately things will grow back to a growing year-over-year trajectory of people focusing and investing more in their health. That's what I'm hoping. Otherwise, I'll just close up shop today. So there's no point. So.
Yeah, I don't think you would. I think you've got enough fight in you. So let's circle back. Thanks for sharing everything about your product, your company, where it's going. Let's circle back to, the last couple of years, or maybe pre-pandemic. You can pick the timeline, or maybe now.
Sure.
So how do you get your customers to you? So this is sales and marketing, right? I know you started with, feet on the street, closing, 40 accounts in 2 months, and being the chef all at the same time. And now I'm guessing it's become bigger, more complex, more challenging. So how do customers get to you? And then how do you envision getting more of them?
Yeah, this is a question that I'm bluntly still looking to solve. I think the market has evolved, and obviously people have gone more online. And a lot of the stores that we used to, be really dependent on have had their foot traffic sorely decline over COVID. And it's gone more to, I won't name names, but it's gone more to the conventional mainstream grocers, or online, like to the big guys. And we know who they are. There's two in particular that fight each other for direct to consumer dominance. So yeah, and they're publicly traded. So anyways, I would say that, that's shifted the strategy for sure. All the same consumers that we used to deal with are still there. But as they kind of, again, are more cognizant of, reducing their expenses and they're going to, other types of markets, we have to be there too. So obviously online is a big thing, but admittedly, we don't do a lot online. Like for the last 2 years, I've just been trying to keep the lights on, especially as we've had labor fluctuations and shortages. So yeah, we need to, so go to your question about what do we do to get our customers to us in regards to sales and marketing, not a lot. We need to do more. So I'm admittedly terrible at that. That is not my area of expertise. I'm not a flashy person that's going to be on video, like dancing, like for TikTok virality. Like I'm not that type of person. I probably should have been, I would have been a lot bigger. But yeah, I just focus all on the food and operations and keeping my staff happy. And that ultimately doesn't bring customers in the door when you're not shouting from the rooftops about how you're better than everyone else. And we're so ridiculously Canadian in that sense. We also don't put anyone down and we don't self-promote. And, and also being a female on top of that, we definitely are way too quiet in that regard. So I don't have an extremely intelligent, concise answer on how to create a roadmap for anyone listening on how to be really successful in that. That's not my area of expertise. If you want to talk about food safety and operations and running staff and all that good stuff that come along with nutrition and making product, I'm your gal. But I'm definitely not a marketing expert.
Okay. Well, you know what? I really appreciate you being so transparent with that question because it's a tough one for anybody that I ask. I think that it's just like my quick opinion on what you just said. If you want it, take it or leave it.
That's okay. I'll take it. Unsolicited. It's great. Yeah.
there's like three types of companies out there for this conversation. One is excellent product, excellent sales and marketing. Very few of those. They're the unicorns. Yeah. Oftentimes you see them have partners in the business with completely different skill sets. Yeah. So one of them doesn't want to talk about the food quality ever. So what are they going to do? They're going to go and be business development, right? So we see that. The other is companies really good at sales and marketing. They've got a whole group of salespeople. They sell a lot of product. It's not good product. They don't get the lifetime value of the customer is small. The turnover rate of the customers are high. But they're just really good at just going out and finding kind of the next person to sell. There's a lot of those companies in the world.
Yeah.
Especially
look at the things that have gone viral, right? Or the diet teas and the diet gummies and all these things that you see that are to help people live better, right? Yeah. They're here today, gone tomorrow, but they obviously know how to work social media to their advantage. And they'll just close down, get their millions or whatever they do, claim bankruptcy so they don't have to deal with any litigation, and then they're on to the next. And there's a whole slew of people that do that type of stuff for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see a lot of that. And a lot of those companies, they're really good at it. So there's that surge in the market, but what they don't realize is that their market cap is actually very small because their product is so strange, maybe diet gummies or something like that. They sell all the customers right away and they think they'll just keep selling that many, but they've already sold them and there's no more. So they find that out. But then there's this group of companies that I would put you in, which is you've been in business for 10 years without focusing on sales and marketing as an everyday priority by making really good product. So for you guys, it's all upside. It's all opportunity. Right. You can only go up from here. You sustained a company on quality of product
fumes. And fumes. Yeah. If only the capital markets looked at business that way, because they don't. They look at, and not to say we want, Wall Street money, that can convolute things too. But what you just said there is what we should value as a society in regards to someone making a good product, and they just need assets or, investment to go towards the sales and marketing. But instead that's looked at as a negative in regards to, oh, wow, you've been around this long. I don't care about the product. You haven't invested in sales and marketing. I'm not going to invest in it, right? They don't look at it that way a lot of times, which is also very interesting. It's very interesting how business works.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's if you ever want to really grow, I think that there's some real opportunity that might be easier for you to get at than you may think today. But
you're hired.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think if you ever want to talk about it offline, I'd certainly be more interested in doing that. But I love what you guys are doing. I think it's amazing. And I would encourage everybody to go to your website. It's a beautiful website. It's got a lot of information. It's super open and honest, which is what I think exactly the people that you want to be your customers are expecting. And you've done a really, really great job. So we'll make sure we link up the website and everything in the show notes, of course, so people can find you. Is there anything that you would like to say to your future customer?
Future customer. Well, I mean, I'll be very blunt. Again, I'm not a sales and marketing person, but we know it's not for everyone. But one thing I do is I can sleep very well at night. Well, not so well right now, except 7-month-old, but sleep very well at night. Knowing that, and hold my head up high, knowing that even if someone, yells at me because they don't love the taste of something, that we know that we're nourishing them, and we're one of the few in the whole industry, in the whole world, providing something of extreme integrity. So that is something that I obviously hold my head high on. But of course, they're also, I think they're also very good, and they're delicious, and they don't taste like cardboard, and they have good texture. And so we hold our head up high there too. We just know that not every single product is going to be, loved by everyone, even when it's a, like Reese Pieces or something. Like, obviously there's some people that don't like that. So, So again, you can see why I'm not in sales and marketing. I'm a little bit too self-deprecating and a little bit too blunt and honest, but we again hold our head up high on the integrity of our agricultural ingredients, our partners, and how we treat everyone and how we do business. So that's what I'm proud of.
Open nude food, open, honest, and raw, just like its co-founder, just like its founder.
Yeah. No BS. We will tell you, that was a problem. Sorry about that, but we fixed it now. Or, we'll tell you, we're not perfect. No one is. But like I said, we're trying to scale something that's very pioneering in the industry, unfortunately, where it's very, very high quality food, like you could make in your kitchen, legit. And no processing whatsoever, no shortcuts whatsoever. We do everything the hard way. And we're very proud to try to scale something for our fellow Canadians and fellow humans to try to, make a dent in their day in regards to nourishment. So that's what we're trying to go for.
Well, that's amazing. So just for everybody that's listening, after this call, I'm going to place an order today. And then I will do a little review video because
perfect. Then you can be honest. You'll be like, she was right. Don't order them. I'm just kidding. Oh yeah, we're still recording. Sorry. So totally. No, I'd be happy to obviously send you some anyway. And we'd love some feedback because we can always shoot to improve, and we need more people giving us feedback and letting us know the hard truths, if there are any, because we want to scale a product that has no flavors. Even natural flavorings are garbage. I'm sorry. And they're shrouded in secrecy. So we are one of the few without something that will be a party on your palate, because we're not using anything to enhance flavors. We're not using processed fats. We're not using anything. It's literally just the raw, real food. And that's another adjustment for a lot of people with their palate, because they're not used to eating real food that's not amped up on natural and artificial flavors. So anyway, I'll stop. Otherwise, you'll never get me to shut up. I'm sorry. Yes.
All right. I will order some and do the review video. You don't have to send me any. I will do that to say thank you very much. And I think when I do the review video, I will also allow a few commenters to get a free pack sent to them that I'll send to them as well.
We're happy to do that too.
I just want to support you as much as I can. Yeah, I love what you're doing. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show. I think it was a lot of fun, and I hope that our listeners and viewers just for a moment think, you know what, maybe I really need to be thinking about, what I put into my body and how it affects me, and maybe your product will be the first step, or maybe your product will be for somebody like me that's already doing a lot of that, but I'm busy. I've got 2 kids. I'm at the hockey arena, and I could use I could use a product I could throw in a backpack or a hockey bag or a soccer bag or the glove box. So I'm excited to give your product a try as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for having me.
All right. Take care.
Thank you for not only joining us today on the Core Health Collective show, but also thank you for being an entrepreneur looking to make the world a better place.